Good afternoon. My name is Tom Ryan. I'm the founder of Smashburger, and it's really great to be here. I thought really hard. I have 15 minutes to speak, and for those of you who might know me, you know that I'm pretty verbose, and I have never really spent 15 minutes ever in my life talking about one thing. So I asked myself the question, what could I possibly do at the Fast Casual Summit to really add some value? And so I thought real hard about that and figured out that what I wanted to talk about today is not a 13-minute infomercial for Smashburger, because you've all probably know enough about us, but what are some of the major themes that are really impacting the fast casual industry that we use every day to keep kind of our finger on the net for growth and prosperity. And before I do that, I just want to tell you, why do I know Western Michigan, John? I'm a Spartan. So I used to spend a lot of weekends in Kalamazoo, but we had a really good week really good Saturday this Saturday. So had to get that in there. Oh, there must be some Michigan people in here. Okay, never mind. So I've spent a career basically doing change-based innovation for big companies. I spent some time, you know, my background, I'm a food scientist by trade. I got into the restaurant business through the packaged goods business. But I spent some years at Pizza Hut and McDonald's and Quiznos and Long John Silver's, and along the way, my job was really to basically innovate for those companies. And that insight back in those days, from the era of '88 until about '94, it was really an interesting time to innovate in big restaurants. But along that way, it was pretty obvious to a lot of us in the business who kind of spent a lot of time talking to consumers that there was something changing. There was change in the air as early as the mid-90s. You could feel it, and you could see it in really interesting ways. People were starting to spend more time in their kitchens. Whole Foods was founded. People like Williams-Sonoma and Sur La Table were starting to open up retail spaces. People were adopting this more aesthetic approach to food in their life. And it really, at the time, started the sea change that has become, I think, the foundation for what makes fast casual fast casual. And it's that change, living inside that change, and understanding what that change means and how to design and shape around that change is really, I think, a big factor in our industry, our fast casual segment of our industry, to understand who's going to win and who's going to lose. And so I'm going to share in the next 10 minutes a couple of ideas that we use every day at Smashburger and Live Basil and Tom's Urban to really bring kind of that next generational thinking forward. And perhaps you can take some of this back and use it in your own world. I believe three things that I want to talk about today. I believe in the tenacity of the fast casual industry. It is clearly the way America wants to eat. As Jerry said, the big thing, we heard it from everybody today, I think there's some mores around the new values people have, particularly the mindset target audience, that people are looking for food with a story. And last, I want to share with you a point of view about trying to stay forever young, so that even when you're building brand new restaurants, that you keep them in the dynamic, because the river of fast casual continues to move, and if you're not moving in that, you're standing still and people are going to move past you. Fast casual is an amazing segment, guys. It is defining, as Jerry showed us, the growth in the industry. It's pervasive, it's persistent, and it's not starting to cover all categories. I listened to John Kunkel talk next door this morning about his approach to understanding what to get into in fast casual, and it's, to paraphrase him, it's really to get into the underserved categories with his spring chicken concept. But it's really clear that this unique combination of value and food quality and experience is resonating with consumers. So much so that, and I think in concert with a couple other things I'll talk about, it is really the new definition. It is the way Americans are going to be eating going forward, at the expense, we believe, of older concepts. And I think for the first time in the history of our segment, that the brands you see on the left side of this page are really suffering through the front end of lack of relevance. It's not just about competition. All of a sudden, these brands find themselves in a situation where they're offering, their combination of service and product quality and price point is making them less and less relevant for more and more people. And as a consequence, we all read the news. We all know some of these big guys are kind of struggling, or they're moving into areas where they've never been before to try to compensate for it. On the right side, however, these are the brands of the next generation. And these consumers are looking for something different. And so I get asked a lot. I probably do 200 interviews a year just because of Smashburger, and I get asked all the time, because I spent some time at McDonald's, what's going on there? Or what's going on at places like McDonald's? And it's really a question about, are they ready? Do they have the right balanced perspective and the right attributes for the next generation? Probably the question I get asked the most about anything, and this kind of ties back into what Jerry said, is what's going on? What's the appeal of fast casual? And you know, I made a career out of really understanding consumers before I tried to understand the food and the mores that they were looking for. So I really think that this is a key and seminal part that all of you should remember about fast casual. The next generational customer, the people migrating into all that growth, are looking for two simple things. Food with a story, and that story needs to make them feel good and happy about what they're eating. Happiness is, without a doubt, in the millennial mindset, a new currency. People are not buying houses, they're renting. And they're taking that money and they're using it to have highly experiential situations. But it's an interesting and complex, simple answer to a pretty tough question. Food with a story is not one thing. It's a lot of things. In our world, it's about where you get your raw materials from. Where does your beef come from? Are your buns artisan? Do you make your own sauces? How are those animals handled along the way? What do you do specifically and intrinsically valuable at store level to add value to what you're doing versus everybody else? Talk to me about great taste and why. Talk to me about culinary technique and why. Oh, by the way, tell me you're taking care of your people. To Legal Pete's credit. Tell me that you're holistic. Tell me that you support worldwide or local charities. Tell me all of those things. So this food story is not one thing to cover the market. It's a mosaic of a lot of things. And I think most of the successful fast casual brands have kind of segmented their market and segmented their brand and done some really great matching of those particular attributes to what they feel is relevant to resonate with their market going forward. Said another way, if you don't have food with a story, and we can put some of those old slide people up, I would ask you to pick any one of those last generational brands and ask yourself the question, what's their story, and what about that story makes them feel good about eating there? It's all about relevance. And so I think the key to success for all of us in the room that are under the fast casual flag is we've got to maintain to evolve that food with a story and make sure that we're storytelling at multiple levels to cover these new and emerging values of the next generation. 32. So to do that, you have to really understand who are you talking to and how are you talking to them. And a mentor of mine a long time ago told me all frameworks are self-serving, and we all live with frameworks because we have to put something around it. But whether it's Gen Y or Gen X or baby boomers or millennials, those are all frameworks for us to think about, talk about, to define our customer. I happen to think that that framework is self-serving. It was designed by statisticians to kind of group people by age into different kinds of mindsets and values, and it has value that way. But it's really hard for us to use. As I heard John say, he's not really millennial focused. He's focused on people from 8 to 80. And I'm in the burger business, and we have kind of universal appeal from cradle to grave, to be honest with you. So how do you take that paradigm of trying to stay modern and shape it into something you can use? And this is a simple model we developed primarily around picking our music, to be honest with you. And then we found out that everything seemed to work. There's something magic about the age of 32. Who's 32 in the room? Raise your hand. How many of you still think you're 32 in the room? Raise your hand. And you're right on it, okay? So there is something magic, and it's 32 plus or minus, but there's something really magic that we employ at Pizza Hut, which is to be perpetually 32. Why is that? Here's why. Because my kids are 20, 24, and 25. And when I ask them, like, who do you look to in your life that's really motivating, who kind of you think that's the person I want to be, and it's not me because I'm too old, right? They point to people who are 32 in their lives, people working in their companies who are kind of got a couple promotions, kind of on a track, have a point of view, can express it, and they're kind of on their way. They're in a relationship, they're doing things, they're living life, and they're not too old to be too old. And I think there's an aspirational vortex around this age for people younger than 32. On the other side of that, and all of you raised your hands, so you're already guilty, I'm 58. I'm still 32 in my mind's eye. And I want to be 32. I want to live the 32-year-old mindset. And so to play that game, I think modern brands have to perpetually study and understand what does it take to be relevant for people in and around the age of 32. And so at Smashburger, we use that as our mantra to basically pick our music. We do a redecor every couple years just to keep things fresh because this market's evolving and moving. We assess our menu. We talk about our marketing tone of voice. We talk about our color scheme. We talk about fashion for the people in our stores, what they're wearing. And the goal of that is to maintain this level of being perpetually 32. Why is that? So Smashburger, we have 350 stores. We opened the first one in Denver in June of 2007. 8 years old. We designed it for 32-year-olds. Those people are 40. And I think the last thing any of us want in a high-growth situation is to be targeting and designing and executing design for people who are 40 instead of 32. That's our mindset. And so I think as part and parcel of one of the keys to success in fast casual is to keep evolving down to this age of 32, embrace the fact that when we started fast casual, we took the best parts of fast food and the best parts of adult casual, merged them to the middle. Understand that that's continuing to evolve. Used to be just in the middle. Now what we're seeing is that people who are taking more and more of the platform and process, they've learned a lot about food quality and how to satisfy customers. But I think the art now is to figure out how do you get full aesthetic expression moving closer and closer in your execution to adult casual while deploying kind of the infrastructure systems and protocols that have been traditionally used for years in fast food without compromising that food quality. And so it continues to evolve. What are the mandatories in fast casual? Pretty simple. I think you need a strong consumer-facing, well-thought-out, differentiated, but only differentiated on things that matter to customers, because those are the things that define the brand and let you storytell. I get asked all the time, how did you grow Smashburger so fast? Literally, we had as many people working on the business model, our real estate, our cost of sales models, our labor models, and our franchising models, and basically our infrastructure and design of our organization as strongly as we were working on the consumer facing. So I think it's a really important part to be successful in a modern world. And then quite frankly, we also designed it so that we would generate a lot of shareholder value for franchise partners, for investors, and for employees to basically make sure that they were motivated and moving along well. I think modernity, this constant focus on being modern, the act and state of being modern at all times is a really important facet. And again, it ties back to 32. So those are some quick insights from me in 15 minutes. I think it jives with a lot of what I heard next door and here from Jerry and John and the folks from Illegal Pete are really great. I admire the Illegal Pete's program. We should talk about that. I think it's really cool. But I also want to take a moment before I say goodbye to say thank you so much for having me here today. Great conference, and have a great rest of the summit. Okay, guys? Thanks.